Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson, and today we're going to talk about getting gendered. It's been something that I don't really think about as much in terms of how people gender me, like she, her, but recently it kind of came up again, and I think this might be an interesting topic to dive into more details of, because it's not about being gendered so much as how you experience being gendered. That's the more important thing. And I don't know about you in terms of your experience for being gendered, like how is it? For me, I pretty much don't think about it, and I actually don't even react to it. What I mean by that is someone says she, her, and it doesn't even feel validating. Sometimes people say sir because like I'm traveling and I'm wearing all sweatpants and stuff, and that more recently has come to mind because I go through the airport and I wear my sweatpants and I have my broad shoulders and I'm tall, and people automatically think that I'm a guy when they see me from behind. And so for the first time, I know this may stun you, but for the first time I was gendered correctly in the airport. And it was suddenly the most validating thing that I had experienced in a while, because, oh, finally, like the place where I always get misgendered, I have been gendered correctly. And I didn't even set off the alarm system. I don't know how I didn't set off the alarm system when you go through the thing you gotta do, but I didn't set it off. I kind of like tucked it away a little bit down there and was hoping it wouldn't set off any alarms, and it didn't. Maybe it's also just the European system because it doesn't have this full like rotating scanner thing. But I thought to myself how peculiar it is that someone who is trans and passes as a woman in the day-to-day life still does not have a sense of gender within themselves when they get gendered correctly. And that it's kind of been something I've intentionally disconnected myself from since I was non-binary. I think it's honestly because it hurt the most when I was non-binary to not be continually seen. And if you are non-binary or gender fluid or unsure of like where your gender is, it super hurts when people don't they, them, you, or when you get gendered as your assigned at birth gender, right? Or even if you're binary and you still get misgendered, it hurts. But the more that I distanced myself from that gendering and said it doesn't matter what they gender me as because I attach no emotional output to that, like no positivity or negativity. I leave this realm of being gendered because it's just too much of a frustration. I've never come back to that. I've never come back to being gendered correctly as a sense of validation. And I think maybe I should now, when I feel like it's safer for me to engage with that emotionally. I don't know. How's your relationship with being gendered and being connected with that? The weirdest thing to undergo in a decision like transitioning is suddenly you take on an entire different framework of reward systems and punishment systems. There's, of course, the highest level framework of being transgender, where suddenly you have left the system and now you are no longer valid within the system, and you have to step into a space where you get to embrace yourself and you can feel happier for it, but it comes at the cost of potential lost friends, family, being ostracized, being ridiculed, even putting yourself in more danger. And this trade-off can feel huge, especially when you start. But the further you get along, I feel like the trade-off becomes less and less. I mapped this a little bit in the book that I wrote where I talk about the transition journey, because at some point you adapt. your mind's flexible. You're flexible. You're capable of changing. And so even if problems become unresolved or stay unresolved, you find some way to resolve it in terms of acceptance. Where are you in that journey? Where are you working through the things that feel like if I just had a little bit more to be able to work through this, then I would be happy? What are those little things where you feel like you could push yourself a little bit more to make yourself happy, to find some sense of self-acceptance where you can resolve these little paper cuts of being transgender that could make your life better? What are those? For me, I think it's allowing myself to be gendered, because now it's safe for me to be gendered, which is like a really weird thing to say, but I can be gendered now. That's amazing. I never thought it would happen. I remember when I began my transition, like, would I ever pass? Would I ever look good? Would I ever have a boyfriend? Which I still don't have a boyfriend. But it's a different problem now, because when I started it was, would men ever date me? And now it's more of a which or what man is out there that's for me, which is progress. But unfortunately, my psychic says it's still a distance out. So I'm focusing on me. I'm focusing on the work that I have to do. And honestly, it feels great focusing on what I need to do, focusing on you, focusing on my book, focusing on getting it out there, focusing on growing as Ashley Adamson has been really rewarding. I've stopped doing dating and hookups, and though I wish I had a man to hold on to or have some connection with, it feels good to push things forward that you have control over. Because dating is sort of like this, it's kind of a mess. It's a super mess. Are you dating at all? I find it to be such a mess. Like, oh my God, it's a roll of the dice, and normally it doesn't end well, at least for me. And I think it doesn't end well mostly because people like to ghost, or I just find these people to not be worth my time, or that they just want to hook up. Like, no one wants to date seriously these days. I don't know what it is. I think there's a lot of pressure on men, and I think there's a lot of expectations that men may feel that they just can't meet. And so I think most men that I go on dates with are more avoidant. Or perhaps it's just the pool of people on dating apps, right? Yeah. What about you? Like, what's going on in your life where you're looking for building some stability and foundation, where you can find some other way to create a space for yourself, to be building your power, cultivating it, putting yourself in a direction that's going to make you better, hopefully permanently. The thing I like about life is it's a continual building if you let it be. You can just build, and you can build, you can build momentum. When I was a kid, I used to play with Lego, and I would just keep building, and I just make all these things without instructions. Like, have you played with Lego? Do you like Lego? Is that a thing? But I think that got me hooked on this idea of building. And here I am now, I'm in Paris, and I've lived a life so far where I continue to build off of these choices that I make, and I always try to focus it in a positive direction. And I feel like personal growth and growing in your transition, if you approach it from the framework of continuing to build, I think it's spectacular. Because when I started out, like I said earlier, I didn't see this possibility of the future that I'm now living. I feel so much better. I feel so much more alive and so much more amazed at the mystery of life. I don't know where you are in your transition, but I hope it's in a good place. And if you're not feeling good, please reach out to a friend and get some support. If you don't have friends, join the Discord community, come say hi, or find other places where you can create some connection to just speak to people. I'm just drifting and kind of going through different areas, but I think the main thing is I wanted to pull it into this sense of like your own allowance of what you give yourself with your gender and your experience, and how sometimes you may be disconnected with it intentionally, like in my gendering thing. And are there ways or things that you can do in your experience that can make you feel more valid, more experienced? I'm going to close this with a little bit of a healing session. So just take a second to put your hands over your heart, connect with it. Breathe in. Give yourself some love for showing up, for joining me on this little video adventure. Wherever I was going, I don't know. And I'll see you next time. Sending you some love, some healing thoughts. Bye.